Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lani Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lani Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm responsible, mature, and level-headed story expert Lani Diane Rich.
And I'm funky party weasel film scholar Noelle LaCroix, and we're here today to talk about Surprise and Innocence, the 13th and 14th episodes of Season 2.
Surprise aired on January 19th, 1998, was written by Marty Noxon and directed by Michael Lang. Innocence aired on January 20th, 1998, and was written and directed by Joss Whedon. That's right, Innocence aired just one day after Surprise and marked the show's move from Monday to Tuesday night.
A warning before we begin, every episode of Still Pretty talks about each episode within the greater context of all of Buffy, and as such, is fully spoiled. So hang on to your souls. We're going on patrol. In Surprise and Innocence, Buffy has a dream about Drusilla killing Angel and rushes to check on Angel. He's fine and tells her that not all her dreams are prophetic, and they end up making out and talking about having sex. Sort of.
You still haven't told me what you wanted for your birthday.
Surprise me.
The Scoobies are planning a surprise party for Buffy's birthday, and Willow asks Oz to be her date. At the warehouse, Spike is sporting burns and sitting in a wheelchair as a fully restored and extra Drusilla plan a party of their own with a very special party favor in a wooden box.
It'll be the best party ever.
Why is that?
Because it will be the last.
At school, Jenny gets a visit from her creepy, weird uncle who wants to know what's going on with Angel's curse. Turns out, Jenny is a descendant of the Romani who put the curse on Angel and was sent to spy on Angel. He reminds her that she isn't Jenny Calendar, she's Yana, and her people demand vengeance.
The girl and him, it ends now. Do what you must to take her from him.
I will see to it.
Jenny finds Buffy and says Giles asked her to bring Buffy to meet him. While they're in the car, they come upon vampires stealing a box. Buffy fights them and crashes through a window into her surprise party at the Bronze, dusting two of the vampires, while the other gets away. Buffy is touched that they threw her a surprise party, and Oz has his initiation into the life of a Scooby.
Hey, did everybody see that guy just turn to dust?
They look into the box the vamps were stealing, and in it is an arm that immediately tries to strangle Buffy. Angel recognizes it as the arm of the Judge, a being that exists to destroy humanity and couldn't be killed, so they hacked him into pieces and sent them to remote corners of the world. Once all the pieces of his body are assembled, he'll destroy everything. So Angel has to take the piece and bring it to a remote place, which will take him months to do because he can't fly, and it's not like you can UPS that kind of shit.
There's no other choice.
When?
Tonight, as soon as possible.
When is my birthday?
At the docks, Angel is just about to tell Buffy he loves her when they're attacked by vampires, and they lose the Judge's arm. The Scoobies get to researching ways to kill the Judge as Drusilla's party starts and they assemble him. He gathers his strength by burning the accountant vampire. Buffy and Angel go to the warehouse to find out what's going on, but the Judge spots them and they're captured.
Leave her alone.
Yeah, that'll work. Now say pretty, please.
They manage to escape and rush back to Angel's place, where the near-death experience combined with their star-crossed love becomes too much to resist. They confess their love for each other and have sex. Later, while Buffy sleeps, Angel wakes up in a panic. He rushes outside into the thunderstorm and loses his soul.
Outside in the alley, he comes upon a woman who asks if he's okay, and he says the pain is gone. He gets up, vamps out, and bites her. Buffy wakes up alone and has no idea what happened to him. She reports in at school and tells everyone what happened, hoping Angel has checked in, but he hasn't. At the warehouse, Angel pays a visit to Spike and Drew, but when the judge tries to burn him, he can't.
This one cannot be burned. He's clean.
Clean? You mean he's...
There's no humanity in him.
Angel.
Yeah, baby. I'm back.
At the warehouse, Spike and Drew want to celebrate the return of Angelus, but he asks for a little time to mess with Buffy first. She made him feel human, and he can't forgive her for that. At the school, everyone's in research mode except Xander and Cordelia, who make out in the stacks. Willow catches them and runs off, and Xander goes after her.
Willow, we were just kissing. It doesn't mean that much.
No, it just means that you'd rather be with someone you hate than be with me.
Buffy searches everywhere for Angel and finds him at his apartment, where he callously dismisses what happened between them and then takes off again while she cries. Meanwhile, Jenny meets with her uncle, and he fills her in on the fine print of Angel's curse. If he has one moment of true happiness, then he loses his soul and becomes Angelus again.
Buffy loves him.
And now she will have to kill him.
Unless he kills her first. Uncle, this is insanity! People are going to die.
Yes. It is not justice we serve. It is vengeance.
Jenny rushes to the school, but not before Angelus grabs Willow. Buffy shows up and confronts him, and he runs off, choosing to extend her torment rather than fight. Everyone gathers in the library, and when Giles asks what happened the night before to trigger Angel's turn, Buffy runs out crying. Xander comes up with a plan to steal a rocket launcher to deal with the judge, while Angelus, Drusilla, and Spike argue over how to best torment Buffy.
Force won't get it done. You gotta work from the inside. To kill this girl, you have to love her.
Buffy goes home and falls to her bed, weeping. She has a dream where Angel tells her she has to know what to see, and she looks at Jenny. She wakes up and confronts Jenny, who confesses all to Buffy and Giles. Buffy wants Jenny to curse him again, but Jenny can't, so they go to see her uncle. But when they get there, Angelus has already killed him and left a message for Buffy on the wall, written in his blood.
He's trying to make it harder for you.
He's only making it easier. I know what I have to do.
What?
Kill him.
Xander delivers the rocket launcher to Buffy, and when Jenny offers to help, both Buffy and Giles tell her to leave. When they go to the warehouse to find it empty, Oz suggests that the best place to find a lot of people in Sunnydale is the mall. The judge, Angelus, and Drew are there, burning the humanity out of people, when Buffy and the gang show up, ready to rock.
You're a fool. No weapon forged can stop me.
That was then. This is now.
Buffy uses the rocket launcher to take out the judge, and chaos ensues. Drew and Angelus run off, and Buffy goes after Angelus. They fight, and she draws her stake.
You can't do it. You can't kill me.
Give me time.
All right, so Noelle, I think maybe we can start with just a little bit of something that's not in our notes, but it's clearly obvious. This is the stupidest curse ever, right? I mean, it's really dumb.
No, it makes zero sense.
It makes no sense at all. Let's, give the guy a soul and make sure he's tormented. But then if he has any happiness, let's take that soul away so he can kill people again. Right. It's a dumb curse.
What? Why? I mean, other than there's no story.
Because they serve vengeance? I don't know.
They serve vengeance, which all right. I mean, I got nothing. I have nothing. I don't think the writers knew the ins and outs of Angel's curse.
Yeah.
Hey-o. I don't think they knew when they wrote Angel initially. Why is what I'm asking. Like,
Right.
why?
No, I mean, from a narrative point of view, it's actually really great because it maximizes his torment and Buffy's torment in that moment. But from the point of view of the people cursing him, give this guy a soul. Let him, live in torment for that. But the idea that there is a loophole through which he loses his soul again and then ends up killing people, like, I don't know. It's just a little weird. But I guess, when it's the 18th century and all you got is one book of curses and you got to do something fast, you got one Orbithesalia, you got to make that shit count. I mean, I guess in the moment, but just like from the perspective of the people cursing him, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But actually, narratively, it is pretty much perfect. And if I was on the writing staff, I would probably make the same choice because it is really good.
Well, and emotionally, it makes great sense, too. If having a soul makes him feel shame for what he's done, then a moment of true happiness, pure happiness, you can't be in both joy and shame at the same time. Not in like the ultimate expression of joy, right? He cannot feel that shame in a moment of true happiness. So maybe the loophole is not so much within the the curse doesn't understand the complexity of emotional experience. I mean, and that's kind of great because then it does mean that this moment of happiness is specific to that moment in time with Buffy. It's not that he can't experience an orgasm.
Right,
or he'll lose
which
his
is
soul.
something we're going to spend a lot of time on that joke between Buffy and Angel and, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's not about sex. It's about sex with Buffy.
Yeah, and about the emotional resonance of that connection at that time with everything that has happened leading up to that point. It's not so sex with Buffy under different circumstances might not have done it. I mean, depending on how much you buy into their love as a true love. And I mean, I've mentioned on the podcast before that I don't typically go for romance. Which is to say I don't typically go for romance in fiction because if you are my friend and you tell me that you met the person who is your person and you're so in love, I will say get in there and get some of that. I will get ordained so you two can be legally wed together forever if that's what your heart's desire. I am here for real life love. But for me, narrative has to work really hard to get me on board with a love story. And I say all of that mostly so that we're clear that it's not a reflection of you or your love for Buffy and Angel and their romance when I say I do not care about Buffy and Angel as a couple. Like, I don't. I don't care. And the lighting and the narrative beats and the music, oh dear God, the music all tell me that I should be way invested in this romance. I should be way invested in this love story. And I'm just like, meh. I mean, it feels like a Romeo and Juliet type situation. Like it's infatuation and that's cool. But the whole mise en scène of the show is like, this is the relationship. You must ship it. And I just don't. It feels like we went from really goofy with Buffy, leaning out of her bedroom window to make out with Angel so she doesn't have to break curfew to this weighty, like melancholy of a relationship overnight. And I'm just like, where did this come from? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. We're suddenly in this, it feels like with surprise, we're suddenly in this overwrought, but very adult territory with Buffy and Angel, not wanting to keep their hands to themselves when she's supposed to be going to school. And I don't know. I think it's interesting and kind of problematic that we have to couch Buffy's desire for sex in what turns out to be a really patriarchal framework.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because it's not a desire for sex. It's a desire to be that close with Angel. And it is placing sex in this, highly romanticized context, which is it's okay to have sex if you're really in love, but you can't have sexual feelings outside of that. You can't just want to bang.
Well, and she says there's a moment where she's talking to Willow. That I love that conversation with Willow. But she says at some point it becomes kind of inevitable.
Right.
And she says once you get to a certain point, seizing is sort of inevitable. And of course, they're talking about sex as seizing the day, which I think is very, very adorable. But I have to say, I think that's kind of a dangerous line of thinking, that at some point in a relationship, sex must happen. Especially, for all of our demisexual and asexual listeners. I mean, I see you. You're valid. Right. This is not, there is nothing about a sexual relationship that is the greatest and best and most important relationship. And there's nothing about a deep connection with someone that necessitates sex. I understand what Buffy is getting at here, but I felt like, ooh, that's kind of a slippery slope. And I'm so sorry for all of the all of the unintentional. It's gonna I feel like when we talk about sex, because as a society we're so weird about sex, anything I say that's even kind of like erotic adjacent on this episode is gonna sound like I'm being innuendo-y. And
everything is innuendo. Everything is all innuendo. Once you start talking about sex, you see it everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. So yeah, so, I mean, now that I've just shat upon the entire Buffy Angel relationship. I mean, I don't there's something so patriarchal about the way the show frames this desire, because she is talking specifically about Angel, and she's talking about, taking their relationship to this more physical space. But I don't know. There is definitely a desire aspect there, which is great, because she makes this decision to have sex with him before the entire plot goes down. Ayo. Yeah. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't. I get two more of those, and then I have to cut myself up.
No, I get it. I mean, I went on a little slippery slope thing, so yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah.
But the show works so hard to show that she's innocent.
Yes.
AKA this is her sexual debut, right? They're practically married by the time they actually get to the having sex part of the planned sex. I mean, he gives her a ring, and he's like, wear this ring like this because you belong to someone. And then he holds up his hand, and he's wearing it with the heart facing it. And I throw up in my mouth a little bit because, oh my dear God, I just can't. I can't with the Claudia ring. I can't.
A little too much for you there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, and this is coming from someone who, in the late 90s, I believe, had a collection of Claudia rings. I believe they were in vogue for a while, probably because of the show.
Probably because of the show. It was about that time, yeah.
It's interesting to me that they have sex in Surprise, but we don't really see anything beyond, thunderclaps and fade to white, which is an interesting choice. But in Innocence, when we see Buffy's sex dream, such as it is, it's a lot of moaning and a lot of Claudia ring.
Right.
And it's so very I don't know. There's this very marriagey kind of vibe to it.
Right.
For me.
They've committed to each other. They're madly in love. These are the circumstances in which it's okay for a woman to want sex. Yes. Right. Men can want sex when they look at linoleum, as we have Xander say a little bit later. Right. But for a woman to want sex, first of all, she has to be a virgin. Right. Then she has to be madly in love. He has to give her a ring first. Right. Yep. And talk about eternal love. I mean, he's eternal. So she even gets that. Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is definitely there's definitely that we get this sort of cleansing of the space to make this okay for Buffy to have sex,
Right.
which is, a very patriarchal and a very highly over romanticized kind of situation. I think honestly, everybody should learn how to have sex from Faith first, learn how to do it right, let her rock their world, and then you can go off and fall in love. But
well, at least they get really, really wet first. That's the one thing they do right.
Really wet first.
They get really, really wet before they have sex. And that is, I'm like, good, excellent.
Just very,
oh
very
my God.
important.
So much getting wet.
There is a lot of getting wet in this episode. But we're going to have to put like a warning on this episode anyway. But
I know.
Anyway,
this is...
I honestly, I get what you say about, now I, of course, am the opposite. Like I ship everything. If you have two people with the slightest bit of chemistry, I ship it. I want that romance. I love romance stories. I always have. And I think that that's great. Buffy and Angel were never really my favorite romance. Like everything they've done up until now, I think I was like, okay, I'm in, fine. He's a vampire, she's a vampire slayer, yada, 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 whatever. They're together and it's fine. But this point in the relationship, when this happens, this is the best part of the Buffy and Angel relationship for me. Because one of the roles of fiction is replicating human experience, giving you a space where you can kind of have these experiences, but they're in a safe fictional space, and it helps us deal with our own experiences in that safe kind of external area, and good romantic conflict is about why people can't be together. Now they have a romantic conflict. He's a vampire, she's a vampire slayer, but he's a vampire with a soul, which means he's good. So there really isn't any real romantic conflict at this point. I mean, there is the sense of what kind of future would they ever have together? He's going to live forever. She is, of course, going to age and die, or she might just die and not age at all because she is the Slayer. So I mean, that is more of a conflict, but that's going to be a conflict with anybody she dates because she is the Slayer. There's always going to be that element of romantic conflict. But once they're together, it's fine. They're in love and everything's great. But people, like, we love that romantic conflict of why can't they be together? Because it creates that sense of longing for the thing that you can't have, which is something that we experience in many different, contexts. Romance just being one of them, throughout our lives. And often we have that sense of longing and we never get the thing that we want. But in a romance, you build up that sense of longing. You have these people who can't be together, and then you find a way past it and they're together, and you get that sense of, getting what you want, which is really addictive. People want that, and it's fun, and I like it, and I'm not gonna lie about it. When Mulder and Scully slept together, I felt real good about that. So I'm just saying, like, I ship it, I want it, and when they get together, I am happy. All right. But Buffy and Angel specifically, though, I think are at their best when they're separated, because that is the best part of their relationship. It's otherwise a little bit boring. He's really good and broody. She's got to kill vampires, whatever. It's fine. But there's no other real romantic conflict there for them. And there's nothing between them that makes you just think, oh my God, these two absolutely have to get together.
Yeah.
It really is the core of that relationship is that conflict that, he's the star-crossed element. He's a vampire, she's a vampire slayer, yada, yada. But that longing, speaks to this universal experience. And, for me, I like this part of their relationship from this part until the end of season 2 is my favorite part of their whole relationship. That is when I'm just dying inside, And what isn't a universal experience, thank God, is watching the person you love most in the world become a monster before your eyes. But some people have had that experience. So there's also that level of working out your trauma in fiction for some people, right?
Well, and I think that, I'm going to use gendered language here, but this applies across genders and sexual orientations. I think that that's a fear for a lot of women. You sleep with a man, he's so nice and kind and, he's just so wonderful. And then you have sex with him and then he's a monster. He's a completely different person.
Wants. Right.
Yeah.
He gets what he wants, and then he's completely different from the person that you thought you knew, which is actually a fairly common experience. And it's one of these things that this was supposed to be a metaphor for that experience specifically in high school, when boys are desperate, and they really or this is culturally the experience. And a lot of women do have this experience. And again, gendered language, but still, where, as soon as, and this is also the cultural warning that we have, don't give it up. because as soon as you do, he's going to be an asshole. And like, if he's going to be an asshole after I give it up, then he's going to be an asshole anyway. And if there's good sex involved, then at least I come away with something, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, with protection, you don't want to get pregnant, but like, not by that guy. But yeah, so it's interesting because it does play into that, into like those experiences, which I think are, it's good to live that out and experience that through your fiction and kind of work that out. And it's also really good to see her kick him in the balls at the end. That is nice. That is a nice moment.
Give me time. Give me time. I freaking love that. I know we're skipping all the way to the end, but gee, I mean,
no, that's okay. We'll be
so
all
good.
over the place in here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But one of the things I found interesting, though, is that we do have this, you know, surprise and innocence, right? And innocence culturally has the connotation of sexual innocence, that you're innocent when you're a virgin, and then you're no longer innocent once you've had sex, that somehow it opens up all of the world's mysteries to you. That, by the way, not true. You can be just as confused and clueless after sex as you can before, sometimes even more clueless.
I was going to say, even more so.
Exactly. That can certainly happen. But the loss of innocence in these episodes really isn't about having sex. It's about finally seeing reality for what it is, you know? And we have this moment at the end where Joyce says, well, what did you do for your birthday? And she says, I got older. You know, so it's about the experience of understanding something that you didn't understand before, knowing things that you didn't know before. I mean, we have Willow's loss of innocence when she sees Xander with Cordelia.
Oh, God.
You know, and she has that moment where everything falls away for her, and she sees him and Cordelia for what's really going on there, you know. And the Buffy Angel theme, too, which is like, honestly, that music, every time I hear it, freaking kills me, because of course the end of season 2 with Becoming, where when we talk about it I will be a puddle mess of weep, you know. But the name of that theme is called Close Your Eyes, right? Which is about willfully choosing to not see what's right in front of you because it's too painful to see. So I find all of that kind of really interesting, because even though we are directly, you know, addressing the first sexual experience and that particular loss of innocence, I think that's the least interesting interpretation of innocence with regard to these episodes.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And we have the loss of innocence in the, you know, in the Xander Willow relationship. We have it in the Giles and Jenny relationship.
Right. When she tells him what she is and he sees what she really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's wonderful. I love all of the relationships that are sort of ebbing and flowing and fracturing as things come to light. Because of course there's the Buffy Angel relationship. Right. But we also have a fracture in the Spike Drusilla relationship when Angelus comes back, which I think is so fascinating. You know,
and Spike loses his innocence there. You know, which is funny when you think about Spike having any innocence at all. But this idea that he and Drusilla, you know, he has this idea of their love. And when she was sick, we've got this reversal with Spike and Drusilla. When she was sick, he was taking care of her. He was working so hard to heal her and to make her whole again. He's half burned. He's in a wheelchair. And she's just like, oh, but Angelus is back. I'm going to go play with him.
Yeah. Yeah. She's licking his burned face and dancing around with Angelus. And it's so, and we see Spike. It's a moment that doesn't get a lot of attention in the episode itself, but in Innocence, when the Scoobies all come to the warehouse and it's empty, Spike is there because, of course, he can't go. All of the vamps have gone and he is stuck because he's in his chair, and he is so, like, James Marsters, you see the resentment on his face. Like, he is so angry that he's left out, that he's having to hide in the shadows because, of course, if they were to find him...
Well, how's he going to fight?
Right. He can't fight. Yeah. He's completely outnumbered. It's a wonderful moment for Spike.
It really is. And it doesn't have like a narrative weight. It's not like because he overhears them, he goes out and warns Drew and Angelus.
Right.
He doesn't, you know,
Nothing
but
happens.
right. So like the weight isn't in the story. Like there's no story consequence for him overhearing that. But when you see his resentment and his anger, and he's hiding, you know, in this space unknown, you know, and so there's a loss of innocence for him as well, which I think is really interesting in this episode.
Awesome. Where do we want to move? I mean, there's so much. No, there's so much to talk about in this episode. And Bad Angel is the best angel.
Yes.
Like, I'm just, and shout out to David Boreanaz's acting chops.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, dude, like, he's been broody. He's been handsome. Okay,
Right.
that's fine. But he is truly dreadful as Angelus. And he's so much fun. It is so much fun watching him chew the scenery and be so delighted with his own evilness. I mean, like,
Yes.
get this dude a mustache so he can twirl it. He is such a wonderful villain. He's so great. And I don't know about you, but I get serious Richard III vibes from Angelus, the villain who loves being a villain, who just delights in being a villain and is essentially saying to the audience, okay, but watch this. Watch what I'm going to do
Well,
next.
see, it's that love story between a person and their job, you know, and their vocation, like what they do. When somebody's really good at something, they delight in it. And that's fun to watch, even if the thing that they delight in is a really terrible thing. And David Boreanaz, I mean, he was doing the whole like, and the broody thing is just all you have to do for that is just be quiet and look sullen, you know, and that's not that hard. So through this whole thing, like, we haven't really seen what he can do. And I will tell you, you know, right now, like, he's good here. He only gets better as we move through the series, as he goes over into Angel. Like, he gets better with everything. But I love seeing him play that kind of evil delight. It's so much fun to watch him do that. It's so much fun to watch him be, you know, go from being the good guy, you know, have this heel turn, you know, into such incredible evil, you know? So yeah, it's really fun to watch him do that.
And from the introduction, the way Angelus is introduced, I mean, we see him, you know, he's falling to the ground in the alley. And I love the way he says, "Oh no." Like he feels it happening. Yeah. And then when he's Angelus again, the way he just hops up to his feet, he just kind of springs up almost like an animal.
Yeah.
And then he exhales that cigarette smoke that he has somehow inhaled from the woman's neck. I feel just fine. Oh my God.
Know. Like, and I mean, the thing is, like, you know, like physically,
not
like
possible.
that's obviously not even, but it is the coolest moment. It is such a good moment when he exhales that smoke and you're like, okay, this is a new game, you know, we're in a new place here. It is so fantastic, and I absolutely love that. And it's such a turn, because, like, you know, when you're watching this and you don't know what happens, you know, you're watching him and you're like, what the hell happened to Angel, you know? And then all of a sudden he's evil and he doesn't have his, oh my God, it is so great.
It's so good. And I love the relationship between Angelus and Drusilla.
Oh, yes. I know. That is wonderful. When he comes back and she is so happy, you know, we're together again.
Is delighted. She loves it. And when she has his number so thoroughly and she says, "You want to do to her what you did to me," and she giggles about it, it's so perfect. I love Drusilla. I mean, full stop.
Fantastic.
I love Drusilla.
Yeah.
But the Drusilla Angelus connection, and then the Drusilla sort of parallelism with Buffy that we get in these episodes is fascinating. I mean, which starts really in Buffy's dream, in Surprise, the very beginning of Surprise, and we see Drusilla in Buffy's house. And it's so scary and oddly jarring.
Right.
And something about, I don't know what it is, but for some reason in that moment, Juliet Landau looks much younger to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, I don't know if it's the set, if it's what it is, but I see the young woman behind the like scary vampire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
External, and there's something just so chilling about that. And for me, I started to think, okay, wait a minute. There is a connection between Drusilla and Buffy.
Yeah.
I mean, Drusilla says to Buffy, "Hands off my presence." Well, that's a homophone with presence, like one's presence. So
yes,
Buffy knows the truth about what Angel did to Drusilla. So something about that action is present in him, that he is always going to be linked to Drusilla for Buffy in this way is a fascinating idea to me. And just the idea that Angel belongs to Drusilla. I mean, Angel destroyed Drusilla, but he also belongs to her. And that is such a fascinating connection.
Right. Well, we just had that possessive claiming with the Clotta ring with Buffy, right?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So,
and I mean, and Drusilla tells Spike, "My Angel is too smart to fight the judge again," which I went, what? Because she doesn't know him as Angel. We went through this with Darla too.
Right.
She doesn't know him as Angel. Right. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this is just an example of they didn't know all of the details of all of the backstory when they were writing this. But there's definitely a sort of, Drusilla as the dark Buffy. If that white dress that Buffy wears in the second nightmare isn't Drusilla's from earlier in the season, I will eat my hat. I think it is the same dress.
We'll have to look it up and see, but it may well be, because it is a very Drusilla dress. It's got that empire waist, it's long and flowy all the way down to the floor. And it's not a Buffy style dress, but it's a Drusilla dress, but it also presents Buffy in white, right? Which is the color we put on women to signify that they are a virgin, so every white dress in every wedding is all about displaying, your sexual purity. So from a patriarchy perspective, that's kind of bullshit, but it is really interesting, like how we have her kind of being, the opposite reflection of Drusilla, but it was the connection with Angel. Angel is the thing that destroyed Drusilla, that made her into what she is. I mean, she had the sight before, so she had the visions and everything, but he made her into a vampire. He traumatized her so that she changed. The way that she sees everything changes, and so it's really interesting to see that he is also going to be the source. I mean, the way we're drawing this parallel, the source of Buffy's destruction.
Yeah. And I mean, we even get some directorial connection between Buffy and Drusilla when Drusilla collapses on the floor, when she has a vision, or she has some connection to Angel because she understands that something has happened to him when he loses his soul. She collapses to the floor in what looks like pain, but the close-up that we get of her is her smiling. And then we cut to Buffy asleep, and she's on her side in Angel's bed in a similar position. Right.
And the sheets are red. I thought you pulled that out.
Oh, yeah.
They totally had sex because the sheets are red. See, I figured it out.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. There's no color. There's no color in Angel's apartment, but there is the red velvet.
But the sheets are red. Absolutely.
Yeah. That so nicely coordinate with all of the red that Drusilla wears now that she's strong. Drusilla. Strong Drusilla is my favorite Drusilla. She's just amazing. I mean, the flowers are all wrong. She is so intense, and it's so wonderful. And then the way she threatens their glasses wearing vampire buddy.
I know.
She's gonna poke his eyes out, and then she's so she just Another villain just delighting in the evil of all of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Make a wish.
Yeah, it's who she is. But it's also really interesting, though, because like in her, I think when she falls to the floor, she is feeling what Angel is feeling. I mean, she is like, whining and crying, and then she turns around, realizes what it means. But it's interesting because she, she's a vampire. She has no empathy. But with the visions, she does experience whatever the person she's having the vision about is experiencing. She does have that. So it's really interesting how she can both have empathy, have like literally another person's experience, and yet not have any empathy at all when Angel is talking about doing to Buffy, tormenting Buffy the way that he tormented Drusilla. For her, that's a delight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was kind of neat too, because we do have her with the ability to feel, to have feelings, other people's feelings, to experience them directly, not through any kind of, moral empathy, but through an actual experience, an actual empathetic experience.
Which is just so fascinating. There are so many layers to all of these characters. I mean, we could go and we could unpack each and every character for hours and hours and hours and hours, but I don't think we're gonna do that.
No, I don't think there's any time. We can unpack the judge, though.
Oh my God!
We can unpack the judge a little bit. So the judge, played by Brian Thompson, who was Luke in the first episode. So we brought him back, covered him in blue, gave him a few horns, and nobody knows. Nobody can tell.
It's fine. Yeah.
It's the same guy. We just liked him, so we brought him back. Also, he's huge, so that definitely helps. But the judge as a concept, this idea that we can't, no weapon forged, blah, blah, blah. And so they took an army to take him down. They had to, cut off all his body parts. The people who survived then flung those body parts to the far ends of the earth. But Drusilla from Sunnydale manages to get some kind of, I don't know, dark road Amazon to like ship them all to.
What? It's fine.
I got it on eBay. This is why eBay is evil. Because eBay is how you assemble all the parts of the judge. Without eBay, you can't do it. But she was able to get on eBay and get all these shipped to her. And so we have this, this moment of assembly, and he comes out and he's all big and he's like, I need to burn the humanity out of somebody. And then, of course, picks the guy who he reads,
I loved that. I loved that there's humanity in him because he reads.
He reads. And he was so
wonderful.
afraid of Drusilla. Like, you could feel his fear. There's nothing about this guy that reads as vampire. Like, I don't know if something happened where he, like, they have to drink your blood, then you have to drink their blood, and this whole thing. Like, if he just got, like, a taste, like, if blood just spattered accidentally from the vampire into his mouth, and that's how he was sired. So he wasn't in touch, because he is more human. He's working really hard. He's into, the numbers. He's like their accountant guy. He's putting all the stuff together. He's smart. Spike says
Latin.
He's the only one with half a brain. He speaks Latin. He likes to read. Like there's all these things about him. When Drusilla is threatening him, he doesn't do the vampire thing of like fighting back and being evil. Like he's just sitting there shaking in his boots as a vampire, So I think he's really interesting. And then the judge, finds enough humanity in him to burn him out. But like the vampire that is more human, or is closer on the human scale, closer to human than vampire, is really kind of an interesting thing. And he's also the most interesting of the vampires because he does have that personality.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from Spike and Drusilla, but like,
right.
Because he's got that personality. He's got these elements to him that are cool.
Well, and we hear that Spike and Drusilla have humanity in them too, because they have affection and jealousy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I loved that so much, that there's something measurable in them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least by the judge, because he questions them about it, and then Spike essentially tells him to fuck off. Like, reassembled you, like, how dare you? But
and the wheelchair is like, just remember I brought you here. And I'm like, do you think the judge is the kind of guy to be like grateful?
Yeah.
Does that seem like the thing to you? Because I'm not sure about that.
But I love how the judge really is brawn and not brains. I mean, when they're going off to zap everybody at the mall.
Yeah.
And the Angel tells him he looks spiffy. And he just goes, he just goes, Spiffy, in this great voice. Like, I'm like, he's just like he's a big brute, but he's so, I don't know. There's something wonderful about him. And I'm kind of sad that we just get this little bit of the Judge. I would have liked more Judge.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't care for the Judge that much. I felt like it was kind of like, honestly, out of all of this is the least interesting thing. And I realize we've got this, this wonderful tormenting turn of the person you love turning to evil, and all of that stuff. So of course, whoever the monster is in this episode is not going to be that, we're not going to be that interested.
Right.
But I find him, I don't know, like I find him kind of flat. Like it's I think conceptually an interesting idea. This idea of you take all the parts and pieces and you fling them to the far corners of the earth because you can't destroy them because you didn't have, I don't know, fire back then, or maybe he can't burn up. But Buffy, of course, manages to kill him with the rocket launcher.
Yeah.
That was then. This is now.
Right.
The weapon has been forged.
Yeah. The first thing she does is drop a collection of TV sets on him.
Oh, right, yes.
Fascinating. The connection between Spike and Drusilla and television is something that I would love to just do a deep dive into, because there's something about, talk about humanity. The vampires who watch television, the vampires who are connected to that, like, entertainment.
Well, to entertainment. They are an entertainment. They are both incredibly performative. They are always playing to an audience. Spike and Drusilla are always playing to an audience, no matter what. That's, Drusilla's dancing and flowing and ripping at the flowers, and everything she does is incredibly performative. She is dialed to 11 all the time. And Spike is also highly performative. The way that he speaks, the way that he speechifies whenever he talks, they are incredibly performative. So the idea that they would be connected to television, to this entertainment box, I think makes complete sense.
It's so good. It's so good. I love Spike and Drusilla, and then
Spike and Drusilla are fantastic.
And then Angelus shows up, and I love. Oh God, when Spike insults him about being the Slayer's lapdog, and he snarls and lunges for Spike, and then kisses him on the forehead.
I love that.
I may have cheered. That moment is so great, and then Spike just cracks up. He's so delighted by this turn. It's beyond.
Yeah, for a minute, until Drusilla decides that she would rather spend her time with Angelus than with Spike. That's when it gets interesting for Spike.
Well, speaking of people who would rather spend time with someone, not their devoted love. Yes. This is the worst transition ever, but I want to talk about Xander and Cordelia and Willow.
Let's talk about Xander and Cordelia and Willow.
And then Willow and Oz, because oh my God. But first we have to have our vegetables before we can have our dessert.
All right.
God, Xander and Cordelia and Willow.
Oh God.
The heartbreakiest.
Yeah, when Willow sees them and then turns and runs, and Xander goes out after her, like, it's such a great. At first it's a little. She's like, I knew it. Not in the sense that I actually knew what was going on, but I knew it, And they go through this whole thing, and then it's so heartbreaking at the end when she's like, "No, you would just rather be with somebody you hate than with me," and that is such a heartbreaking moment.
Oh, that is brutal. The We Hate Cordelia Club, of which you are the treasurer. I have so many follow-up questions, but
right. What did they sell to raise the money for him to manage in the treasury? What was the bake sale for the We Hate Cordelia Club? Yeah.
Oh God, Willow, she is all of the feelings at once. Anger and hurt and betrayal and heartbreak and oh man. And then she comes back because this is more, what's going on is more important
Right.
than
She's like, we're not okay. You have severe emotional problems.
severe emotional problems. Yeah.
But this is more important. And that is Willow. Like, that is,
Yes.
you know, I love the fact that she is honest and straightforward with him. She's not playing games. She's not trying to make him feel guilty. She's just telling him that she's disgusted by him. you know? And, but that there's other stuff that has to be done. And so for the purpose of that, she will deal with him. But they're not okay. And I really like the way that she handles that. And of course comes back because she has like the most maturity out of anybody.
Yeah. She really is the most, it's so funny. I was going to say she's the most adult of the Scoobies in a lot of ways, but they also play it completely the other direction where she's also the most childish. When she talks to Oz at the beginning of Surprise, and she walks away and says, "I said date."
It was so sweet. I love the way he asked her out. He's like, "Well, I got to tell you, you know, I've been thinking about asking you out, and I'm a little nervous about it." She's like, "Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm going to say yes." And then he asked her out, and she's like, "Oh, I can't.
Oh, I can't." But I mean,
he's like, "You went in another direction." Yeah.
Way to go, Oz. That might be the best way to ask somebody out.
No, that is absolutely the best
that
way.
Was excellent. That was, I mean, well done, Oz. Yeah, because, and then we have, you know, speaking of maturity and not, we have the immaturity of Xander and the maturity of Oz. You know, Xander says to Willow, "Oh, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean anything." His kissing Cordelia without understanding that it is meaningful to her, that we're not on the same page here. Whereas Oz is all about getting on the same page with Willow.
Yes.
Which is just,
he absolutely is.
Oh my God. Willow and Oz in the van.
Oh my God. I love that.
That whole scene. I will even forgive the Whedonese of Willow kissage, which just makes me want to throw something at my screen. But
I generally like Whedonese. Like, I generally appreciate it, but that one isn't so great. But, you know, "Do you want to make out with me?" And then he says no, and she says like,
"What?"
So, and
it's so great.
Oh my God.
His what? She said, when she asked him, he goes, "What?" Like,
right?
Where did this come from?
Sweet. But then when he says, you know, to the casual observer, it would appear that you're trying to make your friend Xander jealous or even to score something. See, in my fantasy, when I'm kissing you, you're kissing me. That is the best answer. That is so great. And this is this is when you fall in love with Oz, because Oz is so cool and he's so straightforward. You know, he does not play any games with her. He's like, "Yeah, I want to kiss you, but when I'm kissing you, you're kissing me."
Yeah.
And he's going to wait for that. And I love that. I love that he's not hurt or offended or, you know, playing pissy little games about, you know, well, you're here with me, but you're thinking about him. Like, none of that. He's not angry with her. He's not upset with her. He's like, "This is what I see. And when that's not a problem anymore, we'll revisit the topic." You know? Which is just so great.
Well, and it's so wonderful because we see her reaction to his speech about wanting to kiss her. And it's this slow, it's like a light on a dimmer switch being raised slowly. Like, it's dawning on Willow that this is what it feels like to be desired by somebody, you know, who is truly interested in you.
Yes.
As a person. It's so great. The realization and the delight at the realization is just my favorite. Allison Hannigan, man. I mean, her acting skills over and over and over again. I find that I'm making notes about little expressions or gestures or things that she does to show us this whole deep interior life of Willow's that it's truly remarkable.
Yeah,
it's
no,
so
she's
remarkable.
incredible. She's incredible. And what we see from her throughout the run of this series is unbelievable. I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar has this incredible ability to express like torment and heartbreak, you know, and when you're on a stage with Sarah Michelle Gellar, you would think pretty much any other actor would be completely sidelined by that. But Willow, Allison Hannigan, is able to deliver that same like emotional range and depth as well. And it is unbelievable. I love that moment when, when Buffy's upset and Giles is like, well, I don't know, something must have happened last night that triggered this event. Buffy, what could it be? And Buffy runs out and he's trying to talk to her, and Willow just goes, shut up, Giles.
Yep.
Because she knows in that moment. And Allison Hannigan plays that so well.
Yep. We see her figure it out, and it's wonderful. Of course she figures it out, but we see it happen.
Of course she does. And we don't have to have it textually. We can see what's going on. She delivers that so well.
It's so great. We also get it with Jenny when I love that scene where Buffy comes to confront Jenny and just slams her down on the desk.
Slams her down on the desk.
And then she cops to it right away. Giles is like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, no, it's all true. But they're talking, Buffy and Jenny are talking, and it's all in the subtext. Yeah. They're not saying it, but Jenny knows and knows what happened. And they're just moving forward. And we've got Giles in the background, like, standing there,
figuring it out slowly.
Like total dad. It's so great. I love Dad Giles. But
I love Dad Giles too. And when he figures it out, and he's like, oh, and it finally like becomes clear. But I also love too that like, Buffy attacks Jenny and he's like, now wait a minute. And then Jenny's like, no, I did this thing. And Giles is immediately like, he's standing next to Buffy. He is absolutely on Buffy's side. He loves Jenny. Yeah. And he is in that moment just completely with Buffy. And then that later when Jenny comes by and she wants to help after they get the arm and Giles is like, get out, you know, he is with Buffy. And I love that so much.
So great. I love that. I love the moment from Giles where it's revealed, Buffy calls Jenny on all of this nonsense that's been going on. Giles is standing there in the background and he's between them in the frame. Yeah. He's sort of more on Buffy's side. He does not take his eyes off Jenny. He just cannot believe what he's hearing. And she's just rattling it off like it's no big deal because, of course, she understands how dire the situation is. But, oh, man, that loss of innocence for him is in the background, but it's palpable and it's huge.
It's so good. Yeah, well, Anthony Stewart these actors, like people look at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and they're like, oh my God, whatever. But these actors are unbelievable. And what they do with this material is just incredible.
It's really, really powerful. I feel like we need to talk about this turn for Jenny, though, because does this... Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure Jenny's backstory was there all along. I mean...
Oh, that they've been planning this from the beginning?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Did she just forget why she was there? I mean, I feel like just a few episodes ago, it was like Burning Man and naked mud dances and casting bones, and that's not where I dangle it. And that's not... like, she's either very good at undercover work, or... Sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, that's right.
Or she wasn't undercover at first.
I don't think that I don't think the writers knew. In season 1, I don't think they knew. In season 2, I think that we played her, she's just there. She's keeping an eye on things. Like her job is just to keep an eye on things and report back, and so I think that probably in season 2, they had this all planned out and they knew, but they didn't give anything away. And I think that that's fine. Like, I think it's good. It's a nice moment when we see, her uncle comes in to talk to her and we realize, of course, before anybody else realizes what's going on with Jenny, we realize it, and she's at first he gives her the whole speech about, you are not Jenny Calendar, you are Yana of the Romani people, and this is who you are, and understand your identity, girl, and he gives that whole speech and everything, and it is and she cows to it. And then when she goes back after this has happened and she's like, what the fuck with the fine print, dude, and they have that whole discussion, and then she's like, you're an idiot, we're all idiots, you know, and she realizes what has happened because she didn't know that it was a possibility that Angel Angel could lose his soul, you know? So she
Yeah.
probably thought, well, I'm just keeping an eye on the guy, you know?
I mean, Jenny's Uncle Patriarchy. Is he Jenny's Uncle Stereotype? I'm not sure.
He's a little bit of both. I think he could be more than one thing.
Yeah. I think he might be a floppy hat douchebag.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. A little bit. I mean, well, and he's got his whole thing about vengeance. Oh, God. Right? You know?
Vengeance is a living thing that passes from generation to generation. I'm not totally sure what he's talking about. It sounds like generational trauma.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's, you know, we never forget, we never forgive, you know, by the time after so many generations, you got a lot of grudges you got to hold for other people. Like I imagine that must be exhausting after a while. Possibly they recite all the grudges at the family barbecue every, you know, July or whatever. So that everybody remembers all of that. They made it into a song. It's a mnemonic device, so you can remember who were pissed at, right?
The
you know,
Calderosh family reunion and
right.
Yeah, well, I don't understand though when he says it is not justice we serve, it's vengeance, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not totally 100% on board with like why. What is happening? I mean, first of all, it's like the most patriarchal reasoning whatsoever because it's he destroyed this girl who was the most beloved daughter of her group. And I'm like, okay, hold up. Wait a minute. We need to back up to where we have the like favorites within the group and what this means. And there's a whole like,
right.
There's a whole like,
well, maybe she was like the princess. Maybe she was one of the exalted members, like, you know, the big families or something like that.
But really like racial stereotypy to me. I mean, I don't.
Oh well,
you know, like
I mean, they, you know, nobody's being culturally sensitive in this particular moment. I mean, it's all playing on stereotypes. But I find this idea of the justice versus vengeance thing being really interesting. You know, because justice is about doing what you can to make things right, and there can't be justice for when somebody has been murdered, right? Because you can't bring them back. You can't make that right. There's nothing to be done. Right. So the only thing left is vengeance. But vengeance is something that when you exact it, it takes a chunk out of you too. You know, I mean, if you do something for the sole purpose, you know, the only purpose of the thing that you're doing is to hurt, you know, and devastate the person who hurt and devastated you, then that's something that's going to take, you know, part of your soul with it, you know?
Yeah.
Which is different from, you know, doing what you need to do to move on or whatever. And if that happens to hurt the person who did a bad thing, well, then so be it, you know? Right. But this is about exacting vengeance, and vengeance in itself is a thing that will end up that it has a splashback effect, you know, on the person delivering it. It feels like justice, but it's not justice.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's just an interesting, I almost want to call it there's like a religious sort of feeling to what he brings to Jenny about like what her role is here and how important this is to her people and who she is and identity. And I mean, really, I think what it is they didn't want to get into all of that, but I just find it fascinating.
No, it is. I think it's really interesting. I think it is. And it's I think it's a fun, not fun, obviously in the sense of fun, but like interesting. Yes. Fun in the sense of interesting. You know, kind of dichotomy there between the idea of justice and vengeance, and that they are not the same thing, you know, and that vengeance itself becomes destructive, that destruction spews ever outward, you know, and there's a splashback. Like, you know, justice is something where you can try to make right what you can make right, and then that's it, you know. Yeah. But vengeance is destructive. Yeah.
And vengeance has to be ongoing. There's no no
what's the end to it?
End point. You know, justice can be served and then we can like close the, you know, we can close that
and then
down.
that's the whole point of justice. Justice is about that closure, making it right and moving on. But vengeance is about, getting the blood, getting even, and that doesn't help anybody. So I like the way that Jenny responds to that. Of course, Jenny is, and I love this whole thing too, because in the Whedonverse, people get to be happy for approximately 12 minutes. Giles and Jenny, after the whole thing that happened with Ripper and all of that and the chaos and the Mark of Igon and whatever, after that, they finally got back together. They're happy. Everything's great. And now, she is being taken away from him. And so Giles is in this situation where, he's just been betrayed by the woman that he loves, So we don't get a lot of that. We're not seeing a lot of that, like splashback in this episode. We'll get to it later. But how heartbreaking that is for him. And yet he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't say anything to her. He just says, get out.
He just says, get out with his back to her.
It. He makes his choice. His choice is Buffy, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that is really, it's hard because Giles has so little aside from the library, and he's hanging out with teenagers all the time, which, if you've ever hung out with teenagers all the time, dude, that's tough. That's a tough way to roll,
But Giles is so delightful in his role within this group, like his commitment not just to Buffy, but his commitment to this group. When he talks about living on a Hellmouth, things are uncertain, and Buffy's turning 17 and she's going to have a party, god damn it.
Exactly. I love that.
And then when she gets to the party and she's like, what's going on? And he goes, surprise party. And then he blows the little noisemaker.
It is great. So adorable. And how touched she is. She's like, you did this for me.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we have this thing with Joyce. And I was talking last week about how Joyce was going to be terrible in this episode. She's not really terrible in this episode. She has that one moment after Buffy comes home, when Buffy is going upstairs and she says, wow, you look different.
She doesn't say
because
different.
Obviously when a girl has sex, you can just tell by looking at her.
She doesn't. It's interesting. She doesn't say, she says, you look. And then she doesn't finish her sentence. And I'm like, what? What does she look? What? It's...
You look like you've had sex. I can tell.
Yeah. I don't like that. I don't like that scene. I do like the way it's resolved / not resolved at the very end. But
at the very end.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love Buffy's little casual step up the stairs, like, oh, nothing, nothing's happening.
Right. But this idea that if a girl loses her virginity, not for boys, they lose their virginity, no big deal, but a girl loses her virginity, and this cultural idea that we have, which is what they're playing on. I don't think that's what they mean to say in the actual text of the episode, but it's this, we always have that. You look different.
Yeah.
You're entirely changed now.
Yeah.
And it's having sex is an experience, but so is having really good ice cream. Honestly, it doesn't make you look different, but women, there is this idea that people can tell. And when Buffy backs away, it's like this thing where by the look that says, I can tell that you've had sex, which of course Joyce textually cannot in that moment. Whatever it is she's about to say, she doesn't put it all together. She doesn't figure it out,
Yeah.
But when Buffy backs up, it's something that I can feel that it's that, hey, none of your damn business, stay out of this. Cause it is so intrusive, this idea that if you have sex, people will be able to see.
Yeah. And Buffy's little walk of shame is interesting too. And I use that phrase culturally. I don't believe in walks of shame, but it's played very much as a walk of shame. And I think it is because Angel is gone. This walk of shame is played, very much like a walk of shame. Buffy's ashamed of what has happened. And I think it's Angel's absence that kind of opens the door for that sense of shame to exist. Because when she backs away from Joyce on the stairs, it's not so much a, I don't want you to know this thing about me, as it is a, if I tell you, or if you know something, then I have to explain more then I'm really ready to explain.
Right. Because she's, in this very confused, kind of somewhat traumatic space right now because she doesn't know what happened to him. And I mean, at that point, I don't think, of course, she has any idea what has actually happened, but that, he might be hurt. There's something wrong. She knows there's something wrong.
Yeah. She knows there's something wrong. And she, I think, intuits that it has something to do with her.
Right.
Because why else would he leave?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then later when they're in, his apartment, when he's Angelus and he's pretending, that he's still Angel. And he's like, well, you think I'm going to hang around after that? And I mean, my God, that is devastating. When she says, was I not good?
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. It's so awful.
My God. And,
so
and his response, you were great. I thought you were a pro. Is so,
God.
Oh my God, he is so just awful, and it's gut wrenching. And I feel like a traitor to feminism and all of womankind because I'm Drusilla in that moment. I'm like, do it again, because he cuts right to the bone, and it's just there is something delightful about seeing him be so evil so well. And I'm not proud of it, but I kind of love it.
Oh God. All right. So in this episode of Buffy, Surprise and Innocence, Noelle, what are you wearing?
Oh my God. What the fuck is Willow's purple hat? I mean,
I know. I always love Willow's hats. This is the only time where I'm like, okay, that's not good.
I have no moral high ground because I had some truly awful hats in the late 90s.
Well, we all have, yes.
But, I mean, come on. And she's so adorable. And she has that interaction with Oz. And I'm just distracted by the
I was distracted by it too. It was not a good hat. She's going to have some wonderful hats as we go through, I think, this season and next, but that was not one of them.
That was not good. But we get, surprising no one, we get lots and lots and lots of white clothing.
Sure we do.
On Buffy until we don't.
Until we don't.
I'm like, wow, that's super, super subtle, guys. Nice work. But, we have to highlight her innocence and then loss of same.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, she comes back and she changes into like a white shirt after, she's looking for Angel the next day. So it's after she's had sex, but it isn't quite white. It's off-white.
Yeah.
Slightly dinged, Yeah.
And then she's wearing like a little black shrug over the top.
Yeah.
But by the time she goes to confront Jenny, she's wearing a black top. She is all business when she marches into that school. I mean, like during class in her little flimsy
serious
tank top. There's something
and slams
so great
Jenny
about
on
that.
the desk. I mean, my God.
There's something so great about that. So while we have Buffy wearing all the white, we have Drusilla wearing all the red. And, oh man, Drusilla, everything Drusilla wears is wonderful.
Oh, God.
Full stop.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
But in these episodes, everything Drusilla wears is especially wonderful. I mean, all of the, like, she wears this, like, brocade corset top thing. And then her shoes, because we're going to see them in close-up when she crushes that poor vampire's glasses.
Right.
We're going to see her shoes in close-up, so we have to have red, like a crushed velvet red shoe as well. And I love the attention to detail, and I love her dancing in all of her party finery. I mean, she's ready to vamp it up in more ways than one.
In more ways than one. Yeah, no, she's
this
fantastic.
is such a like, you talk a lot about fiction being how it feels, not how it actually is.
Right.
We have a wonderful costuming representation of that. When Angel wakes up next to Buffy and there's thunder crashing outside and he's obviously in pain, he is mostly, if not all, naked. And then he stumbles outside into the alley to collapse on the ground. And he is wearing a button front shirt, pants, socks, shoes, and a coat. He wakes up doubled over in pain and is like, oh, hang on. Gotta get,
grabs all of his, grabs his overnight bag because, you got to have it ready to go.
Yeah. He grabs his go bag and he and I know that this is about how it feels, that we need a visual representation, because then when he hops up as Angelus, he can't be naked, because that's not the core of the Angel that we know.
Right.
He has to be in full villain regalia so that he is not vulnerable in that moment. If he were outside, I mean, as much as we all want to see Angel outside naked in the rain, I mean, come on. That doesn't jibe with the emotional resonance of that moment and that change. So while it is totally ridiculous and unrealistic that he would wake up in excruciating soul-losing pain, put on all his clothes only to go outside in the rain, I'm giving it the pass of symbolism and metaphor and whatever, what have you. And I have to give a shout out to whatever, it was probably a production assistant who was in charge of continuity at the very end, when Angel and Drew do their amazing slow motion dive away from the judge. We see Angel land on the floor, and his hand in the foreground has the Claddagh ring on it, and it's the heart is facing out. Somebody flipped that ring around. He no longer belongs to Buffy in that romantic, we are wedded at the docks kind of way. And I just...
That's a good detail.
Teeny tiny little detail. You blink and you miss it, but shout out to whoever made that choice, because good work. Really good work.
No, it's a good move, because of course that's the first thing he would do, is turn it around.
Yeah. And of course the first thing Buffy does when she goes to confront him is put on the crucifix necklace that he gave her.
I know.
To go fight him.
God.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
We're really...
No, it is.
Yep. Really, really just bringing out all of the wonderful costume elements for this.
Yeah.
This pair of episodes,
really,
except
really
for that
job.
goddamn purple hat. What the hell?
I know, the purple hat. We're just going to have to let it go. We're just going to have to let it go. All right. So what do you have for Arg the Patriarchy?
Oh, my God. Oh, dear Lord. So once again, we get some truly awful Xander in a Joss Whedon penned episode. Is it penned when it's TV?
Yeah.
Sure. Xander's fantasy about the future. Buffy is a waitress at Denny's by day and a vampire slayer by night. And he ends his fantasy about swooping in with his private jet and taking her out for prime rib with, and she cries.
Yes.
And she cries. And he's laughing with delight as he says this. And
he loves it. Yeah.
I just, the grossness of that is just beyond. I mean, it's one thing to want someone who does not want you back. It's another thing to wish ill upon that person. I mean, to the point that you would delight in her distress, or else her gratitude. Are they tears of God? Like, it's
her gratitude.
It's so
I think is what it is. He wants to be the prince that comes in and saves her, but in order for him to be able to save her, she needs to have a terrible life, and that's what he wants, because her misery means that he gets to be the rescuer.
It's pretty shitty. It's just the grossest. I mean, we call him on a little bit of his grossness when Willow is on the phone trying to comfort Buffy, about Angel disappearing. Well, he's got a plan. Well, I don't know what it is. It's his plan, not my plan, which is just so dear. And Xander goes, "Say hi for me."
Right.
And Willow then does, when she hangs up, she glares at Xander and says, "Say hi for me." So
because obviously Buffy's distressed and upset and worried about Angel, and he doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. He hopes that something has happened to Angel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what he wants.
Yeah.
And if she's miserable and upset over Angel, then that's good for him. So he wants to make sure that she knows he's there waiting for her.
Yeah, and it's ugly in a way that it wasn't when Xander was explaining Angel's relationship to the group to Kendra, when he says, he's our friend, except I don't like him. Like that, I felt like there was some sweetness and some self-awareness there, whereas this Xander is just mean.
Is really, really gross. And then there's that moment with Cordelia where he's talking about his plan to go, steal the rocket launcher. And he's like, I need you. I'll just show up at my house and wear something trashy. Right?
Yeah.
And did you see what she was wearing in that moment? She was wearing a fucking twin set.
Yeah.
There is nothing in the world less trashy than a twin set. So like that whole thing gets completely shut down. And I don't know what it is, because we get this joke with Cordelia a lot where they talk about her being trashy and her being slutty and all this. And like it is.
Yeah, she looks like a young Republican of America kind of.
She does. She does.
Like it's very,
she dresses like that.
It's very conservative, even with the shortness of her skirts. And it just occurred to me to wonder if some of that labeling of Cordelia as slutty or trashy has to do with her body type more than how she dresses.
I think it's her body type and the fact that she is sexually in charge of herself.
Oh, for sure.
She, we've had her making out with guys in cars. We had the thing about, if you're having sex in a Miata and you hit the parking brake and you're on a hill, like all that, asking for a friend, right?
Yeah.
So we have all that stuff with her, but like it's basically the only thing about her that would lend to this idea is the fact that she is in charge of her sexuality. And so because she is a woman who is in charge of her sexuality and we cannot have that, we have to slut shame her. And so in that moment, but like it would have bugged me no matter what if he had said that to her, like I don't care what she's wearing if he had said that to her. But the fact that he says that to her when she is wearing, she's got two sweaters on, for Christ's sake. One is up to her chin and the other one is tied around a little preppy shoulder thing. Like there is nothing about the way that she's dressed that says trashy. There is nothing about that. So I don't know. I found that really, really annoying. And then when Xander was coming in talking about, I feel a pre-birthday spanking coming on. And then Jenny goes, I'd curb that impulse if I were you, Xander. So Jenny calls him on it. But it's just one of these things where it's like, oh God, Xander, could you please just stop?
Yeah, I was really uncomfortable in that moment. I mean, even with Jenny saying something, I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. Not good.
Yeah. Like, shut up, Xander. It's not okay. All right. So did you have a girl power moment of the week?
I don't love that I love this, but I love the kick to the balls.
I do too.
Love it. I love it.
And especially because that is not like she got him. Like she practically backed up and ran at him and got him really, really good. And it was nice because it was in that moment where he was mocking her for not being able to kill him. She kicks him in the balls, delivers that so hard, and then turns around and says, "Give me time."
Yeah.
And oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, it's such a great coda to this relationship. And he's taunting her that entire fight about the physical nature of their relationship. He is making just horrible remarks. So the fact that she kicks him in the crotch is
right.
Really, it's fitting.
It's poetic. It's fitting. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite moment
Oh
this
my
week?
God. There are so many. And I'm resisting the temptation to say all of Oz because that just feels totally unfair.
And also that's going to be the favorite part, like the de facto favorite part for a while.
Right. Like if Oz is there, I'm pretty sure my favorite part is Oz.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if I take the Oz, is the most wonderful male presence on Buffy with a maybe tied with Giles. If I just take Oz off the table for a second.
Right.
It's not a moment that I could point to exactly, but the way that both Willow and Jenny understand what happened right away with no explanation required from Buffy. They don't, they just, because they really see her and they can see that she's hurting, and they instantly pick up on why she's hurting because they know how important this relationship with Angel is to her. That, and there's something there about, I don't know, spending time with someone and just knowing so easily what is going on in their life because their life matters to you. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's truer for Willow than it is for Jenny. I think with Jenny, it's much more about the maturity of being an adult and knowing.
And having that experience, knowing
and remembering, presumably, what it was like to be a 17-year-old girl. I feel like that's a huge part of it too. Like when Giles says, I can only imagine what she's going through, and Willow says, no, I really don't think you can. That there's something, it's not just heartbreak, it's this heartbreak that is unique to this kind of teenage girl experience. And there's something really beautiful about that deep connection, I think, among those three female characters.
Yeah, no, I liked that. I liked that a lot. My favorite part, of course, is Giles at the end.
Oh, God.
When he's driving Buffy home and he gives her that speech. And, I mean, she says, you must be so disappointed in me. And he's like, if guilt is what you want, I'm not your man.
Yeah.
And he is so good in that moment and so loving and kind, and the fact that he doesn't judge her at all, I think, is so wonderful. And honestly, that is one of the most touching moments for me in the whole run of Buffy. And there's so many wonderful moments. There's so many wonderful moments with Giles, but this is him just loving her and being there for her, and and showing undying support, which I think is so wonderful. And I love that. It makes me cry every time.
That unconditional love and that acknowledgement of the reality of the situation that, he says, do you want me to tell you acted rashly? You did, but you loved him. And he showed, he showed that he loved you too. Like he says the perfect thing. Like he is the perfect parent in that moment. And it's so heartbreaking then when she goes inside and she's got we have our little birthday coda with Joyce, and Joyce is just she's not that parent.
Yeah. Yeah. Giles threw her a whole surprise party and Joyce couldn't even get cake.
I know.
She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to make you a cake. And she's got the cupcakes and everything, and she's got the candle.
Yeah.
But that scene too, I think, it is really good. I love Buffy. I just got older. And then when she's looking at the candle, she says, I'll just let it burn. And Joyce just snuggles her up. It is really a sweet moment, but it's nowhere near as good as Giles.
It's true. Well, and it's again a nice reflection of the not quite coming out narrative that we sort of teased a little bit in Bad Eggs, where Buffy could tell her mother what was on her mind, but if she tells her anything, she has to tell her everything.
Right. And it's too much.
It's too much. She can't do it. But she has this parental figure in Giles who knows everything that has happened and everything that will happen. And he acknowledges for her that it's going to be difficult moving forward. Yeah. Oh, that just, it's so poignant and heartbreaking. And I love it. That's it for today. To join in the discussion on Twitter, follow Lani at LaniDionRich and me at Noelle Aloud, and use the hashtag StillPretty. You can also visit the Chipperish forums. Go to chipperish.com, click on forum, and join in the fun.
Or you can keep Chipperish Media going to the tune of $1 a month or more and gain access to the live chat in Discord, where you can hang out with me and Noelle and all the Chipperish patrons who can't spend the rest of their lives waiting for Xander to wake up and smell the hottie. Visit patreon.com/Chipperish to find out more.
You can also show your support by giving Still Pretty a great review on Apple Podcasts, or by telling your friends about the show, or by giving all the stars the same name and creating terrible confusion.
We'll be back next time with Phases, the 15th episode of Season 2. Until then, hey, did everybody just see that guy turn to dust?